Welcome to my video tour of my recently restored 1987 Schwinn Tempo. I'm calling this the 35th anniversary Schwinn Tempo because I restored it approximately 35 years after I purchased it. Or should I say after I purchased one just like it back when I was 14 years old. This was the first style of road bike that I ever owned. So I figured why not build something that reminds me of my first road bike. The thing I like about my restoration is I think I like it better than my original bike. As we'll see, the color's a little different than the original, but I'm really impressed with it. And so start this walk around tour and I'll start from the back. So one area that I got a little creative is that I put some red spoke nipples into the valve stem section of the wheel, and then up at the top another set of red spoke nipples just to accent the red that's in the Schwinn logo. Give the bike a little something special that you don't normally see. And one thing that's a little different here is these are not the original wheel sets or wheel set. The original bike would have come with Regita rims and I think Millard hubs. These are actually Trek Matrix rims. And I decided to keep them because, for one, the sidewalls aren't all rubbed off. I mean, the anodizing's still completely there. And the hubs are nice and shiny, which is kind of nice. And so I figured, well, I'll keep them. The set screws are new. The old ones were all rusted off. Quite frankly, I don't even think a bike really needs those screws to keep the axle in alignment, but that's one of those cool old steel bike things that I figured I'd keep around for the sake of nostalgia. Rear derailleur, Shimano 105. So this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 speed. This is a new derailleur, didn't originally come on the bike. Anyway, I should say new to me. I was kind of annoyed that most of the rear derailleurs you'll find are pretty scratched up because people have crashed their bikes or laid them down, and I didn't want the 105 logo to be all scratched off, so I searched high and low to get a new derailleur. And then of course the shift cable is also brand new. I think that's just some Jaguar where I took some rubbing compound and rubbed the Jaguar off of it so it doesn't look like anything. It's not Shimano SLR, but close enough. Another thing that's brand new is the chain. This is a KMC 6-speed chain, nice and shiny. Quite a bit shinier than the one on my 1988 Tempo, and I really like it. And also has a quick link on it, so for whatever reason, if I actually do ride the bike, I could just take this chain off to clean it. And as you can see, I put a Shimano 105 chain stay protector on there. The little chrome piece that came with this bike, it was pretty much worthless, and I actually have one, and I put it on the bike. And I just took it off and put this nice 105 sticker on here. I think it looks so much nicer. The sticker came from Velocals, which unfortunately no longer is in operation, which makes me sad. And so moving over to the crankset. Shimano 105 again. The bike didn't come with these pedals. I had to hunt high and low to find a reasonably priced pair of actual 105 pedals. These are good enough. A little scratch, but that's all right. And as you can tell by the crank arm, the 105 logo is gone. And quite frankly, it was gone even before I polished the crank arm, because toe clips and the related strap have a tendency to wear off the logos. So at the moment, I haven't bought a decal or anything to replace the 105 logo. I'm going to probably keep it the way it is. Quite frankly, cleaning up the crank arms was really pretty easy. I had some aluminum polish from an automotive product that I used with some steel wool, and just with a bit of rubbing and some cleaning, these cranks were really tarnished when I first got them, and now they look really good. So anyway, a tip for you if you happen to have a bike with aluminum cranks and they don't look so hot. Front derailleur looks nice. Probably that is the original one. And as you can see, when I did the repaint, I decided to be as true as I could be. I've got the Columbus 10X decal and put that back on there. Water bottle cages. These are actual Paramount water bottle cages, actually off of a different bike. I think I had those when I was a kid, and even though there's nothing really special about them, it's nice to have that little word Paramount on there. That little stupid fly, it's on the one cage, you must agree. Another area where I did a little bit of creativity was the down tube logo. As you can tell, it's silver, it's not black. DupliColor gives you the option, or used to give you the option, to do whatever color you want, and I just thought that black seemed a little harsh. And you probably can't tell, but the down tube color is actually a pearl white. It's not very pearly, but it is technically. And then one thing I noticed, I forgot to tell you or show you on the back, I went with decals on the seat stays that are kind of more reminiscent of something on the 1998 newer versions of the Tempo. I just kind of like that little Schwinn logo on the back, so when somebody's riding behind me, they know what they're riding behind. And the tires on here are actually Michelin. They're pretty brand new. Got them on Performance Bike for like $20 a piece. About the only thing I could find in a 700 by 23C these days, because pretty much all modern bikes are going to 25s or larger, and they're okay. Someday I might put some actual Schwinn tires on here if I can actually find them, but they get the job done and have that gum wall look to them. Another thing that I'm actually kind of proud of is the seat. So the seat is not something I would actually want on any modern bike. It's hard, it's heavy, it's probably not even shaped all that great, but I think that's why I kept it, because it's a suede seat. And you know, who makes a suede seat today? The seat was actually really worn out looking when I got it, and very gray, and the logos were missing or rubbed off. So what I did is I got some black leather dye, and dyed the whole seat black again, and then got a silver marker pen and redid the logos. And quite frankly, I think it looks really good, considering I probably will never ride this bike. This seat should look really good for a long time. And then going down from there, the seat post is not the original one. The original one was fluted. It was still a Seiki seat post, but for one, I just never really liked the little flutes in the seat post. I always thought that looked weird. And not to mention is, those of you who are Schwinn owners know, whenever people adjust the seat posts on these bikes, they would typically loosen the binder bolt, and then because the binder bolt didn't loosen up very much, they'd start twisting the seat back and forth, and they'd put these hideous scratches all over the back of the seat post. And the original seat post was in bad shape, so I got this smoother one. I like it much better. And moving towards the front of the bike, hopefully you can see, I don't know if my camera's getting this in focus, I love this color. It's darker than the original Schwinn teal. I found it nearly impossible to try and find spray paint that actually matched the original teal. And so this is Montana Cans Caribbean. And I just think in the sun it looks great. And so I decided to run with it. And similarly, this Tempo logo on the top tube, it's all silver instead of white and black. I just thought that looked better on this bike than the black and white would have. I also went for an actual Shimano 1.5 headset versus the Tangy one that it originally came with. The only thing kind of weird here is the stack height of the spacer washers is really high. It probably would have been a reflector in there at one point, and for some reason the top of the fork on this 88 or 87 is taller than the fork on the 88. So Schwinn must have started cutting the fork down or something to reduce the amount of spacers that they needed. And going down a little bit here, once again I had to have that wet rim decal on there. Oh, I think my camera's getting in the way of the light. So wet rims require increased stopping distances. I just think that's funny. They don't see that on bikes much anymore, and I don't even know if you see that on bikes that weren't Schwinn's. So I also polished up the shift levers a little bit, not too much. Wanted to keep the logos on there. And once again on the fork, I also went with a silver Schwinn decal instead of black. So it would have been white. I just thought white was too bright. And something that I paid way too much money for is the actual white Bonotto handlebar tape. This is actual cello tape, and it's actually whiter than I expected it would be. Apparently this bike probably came with the pearl white or some variation of pearl white. So pearl white is going for about $75 on eBay right now, and I'm just not willing to do that. But I wanted to have the nostalgia of bar tape, which we don't use anymore. Everything's either corked these days or some kind of synthetic material that's got some padding in it. And so I just wanted to show what we used to do. And something else that it kind of turned out really nice is I polished the stem and the handlebars, or at least the center here. I didn't really want to use these bars at all because I just feel like these SR Seiki stems and handlebars are kind of cheap and kind of look cheap. But after I started really polishing hard, it started looking like chrome, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll stick with it. And the embossed logo is coming off a little bit, but other than that, I think it looks pretty sharp when you really polish things up. And as you probably also know, if you've ever restored a bike, these brake lever hoods usually look awful after 35 years, and the original ones did. So these are actually something I got off of eBay for like $15 or something. I don't know if they're the exact kind. They are Shimano SLR brake lever hoods, so they're nice and clean and never been used. And I also, because I'm like that, I bought a new set of shift levers. I'm sorry, brake levers. New bikes have these as shift levers, but on this bike, these are just brake levers. Once again, the original brake levers had lots of scratches on them, way more than I was willing to deal with, so I got some that are considerably less scratched up. So, and then finally we've got your Schwinn logo here. And once again, that's where I got the idea to put some red spoke nipples on the bike to kind of complement the red in the Schwinn logo. That is the original logo on this bike. I'm happy I was able to get those little teeny screws in and out after the paint job. And so there you have it. Here's my 1998 Schwinn Tempo restoration, my 35th anniversary bicycle. And chances are this bike will never be ridden. I just plan on looking at it. And someday what I would like to do is compare the technological advances between this bike and my current bike, which is a 2020 Trek Domani. For people who aren't really into bicycles, they probably wouldn't notice the difference between this bike and my current bike, but darn near everything is different. And so once again, I have this bike just to remind me of what I used to do, how I used to ride with 110 PSI tires and basically beat myself up on these old steel frames. And now today it's a whole different ball game with new bikes, endurance bikes, carbon fiber, that kind of thing. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this walkthrough of my 35th anniversary Schwinn Tempo.